Hey guys, welcome back for another thought for the day. So, we are back again for part 5 of Oil from the Last Dance, and today's topic is going to be about leadership. So, leadership is really important because leadership is about the person, the thing, or even God that is guiding you and showing you where you should go, what you should do, how you should do it, supporting you, encouraging you. And leadership is really important because it speaks to who the person is, like how a person is, but also what the overall mission, integrity, assignment is that you're being guided and led on. So you really want to be clear about one, the type of leader you are, but also the type of leaders that you're following. Like those are really important because the person that we choose to follow is leading us in a place, and we want to make sure that we're going in a place that is important and significant to us. And that is seen in The Last Dance. So we see 3 key leaders in that series, and it's not to say that there weren't other leaders in the series, but there were 3 for me that were extremely pivotal to getting the Chicago Bulls to a 6-time championship, right? And those 3 leaders, of course, Michael Jordan, right? And then we have Phil Jackson, and we also have Jerry Krause. And one thing that's really important about all 3 of them is that they each were invested in whatever their craft or whatever their calling was, right? They took the time to get good at it, to understand it, to be able to shape it and mold it to get to an assignment or a goal that they needed to get at. And so it's important that we know that. It's also important to know that even though they might have been great in their leadership, there might have been flaws to them. We know for a fact that Jerry Krause had his issues of wanting to be the big man or the face, but also how that conflicted with the overall assignment. And Michael Jordan with his bullying, right? Like his, what we have declared as mistreatment, but the understanding too that there was some benefits to that. So in that, Horace Grant made a comment that I think for me, when we consider leaders, is something that we have to consider about ourselves or consider about the leader that we're following, and that either A, we're eliciting this response from those that we lead, or B, that we're feeling this way about the people that we follow. So Horace Grant said, when you see your leader giving their all in practice, you feel like, oh man, if I don't give my all, I shouldn't be here. And so that's really important because he's talking about how Michael Jordan would run practices and how he would show up and give his all in practice. So this is in practice. This is not the actual game. So he's giving his all in practice. And so if you see that, then you want to follow behind that, right? And you want to do all of those things. And it, for me, sat and settled really well when I thought about my own pastor who had passed away, and how when I would show up for Bible study and be present in Bible study, a lot of times there wasn't always a lot of people present, but this man would give his all and pour out his all as if he was teaching to 500 or 1,000 people. And it was always something for me where I said, and I tried to remain in that posture, that when I became a leader, when I was a leader, that no matter how many people showed up, no matter how many people stood behind me, that I would make sure that I was trying to give my all in those moments. Because if I gave my all, then it would be utterly impactful for those that were present, because then they would want to be able to push forward and give their all. So as leaders, we really got to consider that. Like, how are we giving? Like, are we giving our all on the practice fields of life, as much as we're giving our all on the actual game place of life? So Psalms 78 and 72. So Psalm 78 and 72 says, so he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them by the skillfulness of his hand. That's the type of leader that we should aspire to be, and we should consider, are we doing that, right? because it's a very weighted statement. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles or moral uprightness. So when we see in Psalm 78:72, and it says, according to the integrity of his heart, as a leader, you have to question, and even when we consider those that we're following, what's the integrity of their heart, right? Where are their moral standings? Are they high? Are they low? We can look at Obama versus Trump. The integrity of their hearts were very different. That's why you have this constant commentary from people, that's my president, in consideration to Obama, even though he has left the White House. But then when we look at Trump, we are disturbed at it. So we want to make sure that the leaders, one, that we follow, the leaders that we pick, the leaders that we move behind, that we've considered the integrity of their heart, right? And that's really important as we consider and as we are going through primary elections, right, guys? We need to pay attention to the integrity of the heart of those that we are selecting. What is important about them? And like, even with much of what Cuomo has done, even though in the past there may have been things that we may have not liked that he's done, what is surmounted and true about Cuomo right now is that the integrity of his heart right now, the integrity of his heart in this season is big. And like, we see that. So in that, not only is it the integrity of the heart that we need to consider, we also need to consider the skillfulness of his hand. And when we consider the skillfulness of his hand, I just want to pause and say we should have never voted Trump into office. Just saying. But it's important that as a leader, right? So in the movement of becoming a leader, but also in the movement of sitting under a leader, you want to consider the skillfulness of their hand, which means in becoming a leader, you should consistently work to build up your craft or build up where you're trying to be a leader. So if you are a teacher, you should continue to learn, how do I teach? How do I improve? How do I go into and deal with the minds of my students? If you are a cook and you are a leader in the field of cooking, you constantly should be figuring out new tools, learning new things, trying new things. If for me, like, I crochet, I consistently sometimes will watch videos or learn new patterns, different things like that, to push ourselves. So in being a leader, we have to consider the skillfulness of our hand, and are we still wanting to be a learner? Because to be a leader means to be a learner. If you are sitting under a leader that is not learning, that's not reading books, that are not pushing themselves to continue to learn, I would tell you to abort mission immediately. You should be under someone who is continuing to honor and govern themselves as a learner. And I got that from my pastor. He was continuously learning. He was continuously pushing books and expressing that we read books that he was reading, because he had positioned himself to know that he needed to be skillful with the hand that he was given. So in that, I want to ask and I want to pose these 3 questions. What type of leader do I want to be? You have to really think that in this season, what type of leader do I want to be? Do I want people to sit and see that I'm being great, and so that they want to run greatly behind me? Do I want to make sure that I'm caring and being considerate about all the needs of people? So what type of leader do I want to be? Also, what are my morals? Morals are extremely important to a leader. They dictate what the assignments are. They dictate those things. Our morals go back to our mentality. So again, this self-check of what your identity is. Morals also connect to your mentality, your identity. So it's those self-checks. But it's also, are you pushing your personal skills, right? What is the one thing that you're doing today? What is the one thing that you're doing this week? What is the one thing that you're doing this month? What is the one thing that you're doing this year that is going to push you and propel you to be a leader, that's going to push and propel you to be skillful in the things that you're doing? We got to consider these things as we sit and we look to be leaders, because everyone is a leader, no matter how big, how small it is. And so in that, consider, what type of leader do I want to be? What are my morals? And am I working to be skillful in the space that I'm called to be a leader.